What's up everyone, Mario here. I want to talk to you about first date jitters. Now, everyone gets them. First of all, everyone gets a little bit nervous on a first date. Why? Because we're worried about the impression we're going to make and, will we smell right? Will we have worn the right outfit? Will we say the right thing? Will we look nervous? Will we, do little things like shake our hands or stutter? All these different things. We're just kind of worried about, will they like me? And the thing is this. Not everybody's always going to connect with you, and that's fine. That's actually just how it works. You're going to have, most of your relationship efforts are going to end in failure. It's only like that 0.01% of the time where it ends in happily ever after. Every other time it's going to end in failure sooner or later. So let's take this into consideration and let's just work to be our best self. So if we go on that first date, we present ourselves accurately and let someone judge us, and if they like it, cool. If they don't like it, cool, but at least they're gonna judge us based upon who we really are, and we won't have to kick ourselves for just being like, why were you so nervous? Why did you say that? Why did you mess up those details? Why did you take that action? We want to just set ourselves up for success the best we can. And what I want to offer you here is just 4 basic tips for making sure that you do something to reduce those first date nerves. So let's get started. My very first tip for you is preparation. Now, preparation involves the participation of both parties. Sometimes you do have those dates where you just say, yeah, I would love to get together with you. And someone's like, hey, yeah, how about Friday? Friday's great. But then Sunday comes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then what happens by Friday? You're a bundle of nerves. You're wondering, are we still on? Were we planning to go out? Should I call him? Should I call her? Am I going to get a message? I don't want to seem weird, but I don't have the details. When should I start panicking? Did they just say that to be nice? No. What we want to do is establish some communication that answers some of the basic questions like, when are we going out? When are we going? What are we doing? And, maybe I need to know how long. People need to be able to plan for their schedules, whether it's, knowing if they're available, after work, or do they need a babysitter? Do they need to take transportation into consideration when planning time? All these different things matter. So you got to answer those questions. And if you are the person asking, you need to kind of initiate this. And if the person asking hasn't initiated this sort of exchange, then you need to let them know respectfully, like, hey, I'm looking forward to Friday, but I kind of need to plan my schedule so that I can make sure that I can go. What time were you thinking? And, then, you can just get into what were you thinking when, okay, that also helps because remember, some of us need to know what to wear. All right, do we need to dress up? Do we need to dress casually? What's appropriate? Sometimes heels won't be the best for the activity that is the where you're going to be going out on a date. You never know, but that's why you need to know. All right, so planning. Let's get some of those details knocked out. All right, next, we want to make sure that you're prepared so that you don't have to be in a rush. All right. You don't want to be in a rush at all, so preparation is going to allow you to do that. Maybe you need to make sure that you've got the clothes that you want to wear either washed, ironed, or you picked them up from the dry cleaners, but you want to have that done in advance because the more that you leave to the last second is the more opportunities that you have for something to go wrong and you to kind of get stressed out and nervous. So we want to make sure we handle all that stuff. Maybe you need to make sure that you have some gas in the car so that you don't have to do that then. Maybe you want to make sure that, you've got your work stuff for sure done, and that's not going to be an issue with you having to stay late, because things come up. And if there are things that you didn't plan for, you never know, when you're going to have to, leave work and all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm supposed to be on this, I have to meet somebody for this date in 30 minutes, but I need to go home. I need to pick up my dry cleaning, and there's a line at the dry cleaners. Oh man, look, the gas tank is on E. I'm not going to make it. Gotta go stop at the gas station. What do you know? There's a line at the gas station. Everyone's driving slow, or I haven't planned for the traffic. Geez, why didn't I think about traffic? Everybody knows that there's tons of traffic in LA at 5:30 or 6:30. Things like that we need to think about and prepare for. adjust, and that's why you need to know those times so that you know how much time you need to get ready without feeling rushed. So make sure that we hammer out those details. All right. The next tip that I have for you is de-stressing. All right, so what are some easy ways for you to de-stress for that first date? Well, we don't want to show up like we're very nervous. We don't want to be a bundle of nerves. So one thing that we can do is get a good night's sleep the night before. All right, that's going to help you naturally release, some of the, you're going to be naturally less stressed if you sleep more. All right, so we want to get a good night's sleep. That's something that you should be doing, and it's something that's really easy to do. Something else that you might want to consider is, if you don't do it, consider the practice of meditation. Many of my clients do it. I recommend it to them. Why? Because meditation to me is like the practice of controlling your thoughts. And how beneficial is that when you're going out on a first date? To be able to isolate, like, I'm going to focus on the good thoughts, and here's a bad thought. I'm going to get rid of it. I recognize it and push it away. So it becomes like a mental muscle that affects, how easily you can identify the good thoughts, the bad thoughts, what you want to think about more, what you want to get rid of. So I really love meditation for that. Also, it allows me to basically feel like I've done some spring cleaning in my mind. I've gotten rid of some stuff that doesn't serve me. I don't need it anymore. And I'm just holding on to the most important stuff that is really important to me and makes me feel good about holding on to. So these would be like your good thoughts. So that's what meditation does for me. You might find it very beneficial. I would highly recommend it to you. That I recommend meditation as a practice for all my game students. So I hope that you're paying attention and giving it a go and seeing if that is a strategy that works for you to unwind, de-stress, better control your thoughts, because you want to be at your best, and that's important. Next, I want you to make sure that you have a certain amount of me time. All right. One of the things that is very difficult for a lot of people to do is to go from work or stressful family stuff and then go immediately into having fun and being free and energetic and just being able to unwind and relax in a social setting. Some people need some time, and maybe it's some alone time at home. Maybe it's just some quiet time. Maybe it's a little power nap, We want to make sure that before the date you have some me time so that you just have this opportunity to just, have your own little peace. Okay, there are things that you can do. Maybe it might involve taking a bubble bath, and just doing some of that for like 30 minutes before your date. Whatever it is, maybe it's exercising for you, but there are things that we might do so that we're not just like all amped up. Have you ever seen dogs that have poor owners that don't exercise them? They're always like neurotic, all right? Those are the dogs that they don't have good behavior, and one reason they don't have good behavior is because they never get to release all their energy. So they're always overflowing with energy. So I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to release that. Maybe it might be through exercise, but that is something that you can also do to kind of just make sure that you're not just like at a 12 out of 10 as far as, like kind of being wound up tight. And one more thing that I would recommend to you, and I learned this from some public speakers, is avoiding excessive caffeine. Before a speech, one of the things that many public speakers do is they avoid caffeine, because you don't want to be this tight ball of energy and then add a Red Bull to it and then add 3 cups of coffee. We don't want you bouncing around and just, excessive energy of nervousness or anxiousness. We want you to be loose. We want you to be free to be yourself and, just much more calm. So that is one thing I think everyone can easily do. Make sure you're kind of aware of your caffeine intake. All right. Third tip for reducing first date nerves is preparing for success or failure. So what do I mean by that? Well, here's some general tips for preparing. One thing that you can do is, if you're the person in charge of creating a date, the first date should be something where I recommend that you maintain sort of an activity that could take a certain amount of time, between 60 minutes to 2 hours. So that's 60 minutes to 120. 90 minutes can be like your comfort zone, but there's some things that you can do where they could be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, but they could be more or less 90 minutes. That might be a meal together. Now, here's the thing. That's good because you're preparing for success or failure. There's basically this understanding that dinner can only take so long. And if it goes well, you can always suggest to do something else. Hey, there's this great place around the corner. Maybe we should go grab a drink over there. That would be if things go well. Now, if things aren't going so well and it's kind of awkward and you just want to, you want to get out of there or give it another go another time, that's totally fine. That's when you just say, well, it's been great having this meal. I had a great time, and, we could do this again sometime. But then you take a break, okay? Because some of us can't perform on a date. We're not prepared to perform indefinitely. Maybe you're going to just... You're holding it in and you're doing your best just not to be nervous, and you're not going to be great at like a 5-hour date right off the bat. But maybe a 90-minute date you would feel more comfortable with because you know that all I have to do is get through this meal. I can do that, all right? But that is also a way for you to kind of maintain some control. It allows everyone to kind of maintain control because, when you ask somebody, if you're thinking things going well, you have that other activity. Hey, there's a park nearby. Maybe we want to take a walk. There's a nice little area, a nice little trail. It would be nice to kind of take a stroll and get to know each other. Yeah, let's do that after dinner. All these different things. You're taking a walk, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's this nice ice cream place right there. Do you want to grab an ice cream? Sure. All of a sudden now you've basically taken one date of a meal, and now you went from a meal to a walk to going to get ice cream. So what you've done is change locations and change the activities, and that also builds a lot of sort of the bond. It feels like you actually been hanging out longer and getting to know each other more because you're going to identify somehow at an unconscious level that I've done 3 activities with this person. It's like having 3 dates, but in essence, you've actually had 1 date and it took all of maybe 4 hours. But that's how you can escalate things for success. The way that I recommended that if you want to prepare for failure, make sure you have an activity selected that takes around 90 minutes. I like that time period, but you could go a little shorter and you could go a little longer. That would be like 60 minutes or 120 minutes. But what you do is you offer everyone involved to know what they're getting themselves into. So it's not like you're asking somebody to commit to some indefinite sort of shared activity. So that is something that you can do. And then anyone can just be like, well, yeah, no, I'd love to, but I've got to get home. I had the sitter, or I've got a long day tomorrow. I need to be up. I've got some work stuff I need to actually finish up tonight. And there's no hard feelings. And, that's kind of, like ending the date. But it might be, I'm not interested in you. I won't want to do this again. Or it might just be like, it was okay. I'll give this person another shot, but I'm ready to get out of here. Like I told you, some people are just, they're going to be feeling more comfortable initially, with a smaller, shorter date. And that's just fine. But I want you to kind of be prepared for success or failure in that way. So plan for your success, plan for separate activities that you could use to build upon your building block from the date, which is your 90-minute activity. And then you can have smaller activities like taking a walk. Here's the beach, an ice cream, grabbing a drink. All these things are ways that you can stack upon your date and make it bigger. Or here's your 90 minutes and, like we're planning on it and that's what we're sticking to, There's nothing wrong with that either, but that's your building block and you should just use that and be prepared for success or failure, or just for that, not even failure, but I've had enough. We could do this again another time. That sort of thing, okay? All right, next. The 4th tip for reducing first date jitters is something that I like to do, especially with online dating. So consider this, if you want to reduce the anxiety, reduce the expectations of a date, well, why not go on a meet? Why not? There's a difference to me. There's first dates and then there's first meets. You might find that a first meet would be more appropriate for you. So what's the difference? Well, a first date involves, traditional, like the assumption is, I'm seeing you and I want to get to know you on a romantic level. I have that sort of interest in you. A little bit more pressure than I'd like to meet up with you and just chat and, get to know you better. It's very different there, all right? There's a difference in expectation. Date is more romantic, get to know you expectation. The meet is more the friendship, a little bit platonic. I'd like to get to know you better, but that could always escalate to the date and that romantic escalation of I'd like to get to know you better romantically. And there's also a difference, so there's difference in expectation, but there's also a difference as far as investment. And that investment can be both feelings and also financial, because a date would be something where you're spending a little bit more time. So it might be an activity. It might be something that you're doing together. Maybe you go to go watch a basketball game. Maybe you go to the symphony. Maybe you go to an event. There's this big parade and you're going to go down there for a couple hours. That's something different than it's a little bit more investment of time, more money and expectation versus a first meet. So a first meet would be like, hey, want to grab a coffee? You want to meet me at the park? I take my dog there all the time and, it'd be cool. We could just hang out and talk and get to know each other. How about a coffee? All these different things. Let's get an ice cream. All these lower expectations there, right? And that might be something that you might be more comfortable with. That's what I actually recommend to my folks for online dating is how about we set up a first meet. So there's a lesser expectation of, the time that you have to invest. There's also the lesser expectation that, the not just time, but the financial, and that makes a lot of people more comfortable. It seems to make people more free to be themselves and not be so nervous. And then if things do go well, then by all means, you can escalate it the next time and say, yeah, I had a great time. And, then you can progress to more of like a date activity where you're doing something that is a little bit more romantic, as far as outcome based. I want to get to know you romantically. There are different activities, obviously, that will happen. And also, it's just one of those things you're going to feel more comfortable. If things go well, you escalate to that romantic meet. If things don't go well, you aren't so much out there because you didn't feel like you had to spend a whole lot of money. You didn't feel like you had to spend a whole lot of time. You didn't feel like you had to kind of just be so invested emotionally or respectful of someone else's feelings because you knew like there was this pressure of the romantic interest. There's a lot less pressure when you're just like, yeah, you sound cool, or you seem cool. Like, yeah, we should hang out sometime. Maybe shoot some pool, grab a drink, get a coffee, take a walk, get an ice cream. These are first meet sort of things, and you can always escalate from there if things go well. But I think that's one thing that you can do. I don't think there needs to be so many first dates. I think there needs to be more first meets, and I think that's up a lot more people's alley. So you don't necessarily need to call it a first meet, but you need to have more of like first meet activities, and people will figure out. People are smart. People will know that there's less pressure, less romantic pressure, there's less financial pressure, and there's less of a time commitment as well in the meet sort of activity. So it's also easier for people to say yes to. And like if someone is unsure about you with their romantic interest, maybe they need to get to know you first through a meet. And that might allow you two to, identify, is there any sort of romantic chemistry involved? So that's my fourth tip. I hope you got some value out of that. And, first dates are going to be, there's going to be a bundle of nerves. But I hope that you understood that there are 4 tips that you could implement today, and they can reduce your nervousness, those jitters, those nerves, so that you can present yourself at your best. And one of those tips was maybe it doesn't even necessarily need to be a first date. Maybe it needs to be a first meet. So all things to think about. This is all on our path to become better at dating so that win or lose, whether people accept or reject you, let's try and do it so that people at least can see you at your best and judge you for your performance when you weren't a bundle of nerves, when you're actually just able to represent yourself be yourself, and if they liked it, cool. If they didn't, fine, but you were yourself and you feel good about it. That's what I want. I want you to feel good about your performance and how you represent yourself, because that will allow you to have much more success and just feel good about the dating scene. So, all right, there you have it. 4 tips for reducing first date jitters. Thanks for watching. If you appreciated the content, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And if you believe that learning about better strategies for life and love is advantageous, I invite you to join Get Game Group. Membership is free, open to men and women, offers weekly game video lessons, and a weekly mailbag for member submissions. Click the link in the description to join.